You know what's crazy? While everyone else was still arguing about whether it was even possible, you already did it. And now they're all scrambling to figure out how. Look, I'm not here to stroke your ego or tell you what you want to hear. But something happened to you recently that most people don't even realize is significant. You achieved something that literally no one before you even attempted. Not because they couldn't, but because they never thought to try. And that right there, that's the mark of chosen one. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't the first time this has happened to you, is it? Think about it. How many times in your life have you done something that made people stop and say, "Wait, how did you even think of that?" And you just shrugged it off like it was nothing because to you, it felt natural. It felt obvious. It felt like the only logical thing to do. That's what we're going to talk about today. Because what you experience isn't random luck or coincidence. It's part of a pattern that's been following you your entire life. A pattern that's going to explain why you've always felt different, why normal rules never seem to apply to you, and why you keep finding yourself in situations where you're the first person to do something that everyone said couldn't be done. Now, before we go any further, I need you to understand something important. Being the first to do something, being chosen, it comes with a weight that most people will never comprehend. It's not all glory and recognition. In fact, most of the time, it's the complete opposite. It's lonely, it's misunderstood, and it requires you to carry a burden that you never asked for. But you're already carrying it, aren't you? You've been carrying it for a while now. And the crazy part is, you probably didn't even realize how heavy it was until recently. Let me tell you a story. There was once a person, just like you, who lived in a world where everyone followed the same path. Everyone did the same things, thought the same thoughts, and dreamed the same dreams. But this person, they saw something different. They saw a possibility that no one else could see. Not because they were smarter or more talented, but because they were willing to look in a direction that everyone else had ignored. And when they pursued that possibility, people laughed. They mocked. They said it was impossible, that it was a waste of time, that it would never work. But this person didn't care about the noise. They didn't need validation from the crowd. They just knew, deep in their core, that what they were doing was right, that it was necessary, that it had to be done. So they did it. And when they succeeded, the world changed. Not immediately, not dramatically, but slowly, quietly, the ripples of their actions spread outward, touching lives and opening doors that had been closed for generations. And suddenly, everyone wanted to know their secret. Everyone wanted to replicate what they had done. But by then, it didn't matter, because they had already moved on to the next impossible thing. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what's happening to you right now. Let me paint the full picture of what you just accomplished, because I don't think you're seeing it clearly yet. You didn't just do something new. You didn't just achieve a goal. You literally created a pathway where none existed before. You opened a door that billions of people walk past every single day without even noticing it was there. And now that you've opened it, everyone can see it. Everyone can walk through it. But you were the first. You were the one who had to push against the resistance, who had to trust your instincts when every logical voice in your head said to stop. Do you know how rare that is? Do you understand the statistical improbability of what you just did? We're not talking about 1 in a million here. We're talking about 1 in billions. 1 in the entire history of human existence. You are literally the first person to do this thing. Not the first in your city, not the first in your country, but the first in all of human history. And here's the part that's going to mess with your head. You almost didn't do it. There was a moment, maybe several moments, where you almost gave up, where the doubt crept in and whispered that you were wasting your time, that you should just do what everyone else does, that being normal is easier than being first. But something inside you, something you can't quite name or explain, pushed you forward anyway. That something, that's your purpose. That's the signature of a chosen one. It's the inner knowing that refuses to be silenced, even when the entire world is telling you to be quiet. Now, let's talk about what happened in the moments leading up to your achievement, because this is where the story gets really interesting. You did wake up one day and suddenly become the first person to do this thing. There was a process. There was a journey. And that journey is filled with clues about who you really are and what you're really capable of. Think back to the beginning. When did you first get the idea? When did the thought first enter your mind that maybe, just maybe, this thing that everyone said was impossible might actually be doable? For most people, that thought would have come and gone in a second. It would have been dismissed as foolish or unrealistic. But for you, it stuck. It planted itself in your mind and refused to leave. It grew. It evolved. It became an obsession. And that obsession drove you to do things that didn't make sense to anyone else. You started researching. You started experimenting. You started connecting dots that no one else even knew existed. People around you probably thought you were wasting your time. They probably told you to focus on more practical things, to be realistic, to stop chasing impossible dreams. But you couldn't stop, because something inside you knew that this wasn't impossible. It was just undiscovered. So you kept going. You failed. You failed again. You failed so many times that you lost count. But each failure taught you something. Each setback revealed a piece of the puzzle. And slowly, methodically, you started to see the path forward. Not clearly, not all at once, but enough to take the next step. And then the next, and then the next. And then one day it happened. The breakthrough. The moment when everything clicked into place. The moment when you realized that you had actually done it. You had achieved the impossible. You had become the first. But here's what nobody tells you about being the first. The moment of achievement, it's not what you expected. There's no crowd cheering. There's no parade. There's no immediate recognition. In fact, in that moment, you might have been completely alone. Just you and your accomplishment. Sitting in the quiet, wondering if anyone else even realizes what just happened. And that's because being first isn't about the recognition. It's about the responsibility. It's about what comes next. Because now that you've proven it can be done, now that you've opened that door, you have a choice to make. Do you walk through it alone, keeping your discovery to yourself? Or do you turn around and help others follow? Most chosen ones, they don't even see it as a choice. They automatically turn around. Because the point was never just to be first. The point was to show others that it's possible, to break down the walls of impossibility that society had built up over generations, to inspire a new way of thinking, a new way of being. And that's where you are right now, standing at that crossroads. You've done the impossible thing. You become the first. And now the universe is watching to see what you'll do with that power. But before we talk about the future, we need to address something important. We need to talk about why you were the one who could do this. Because it wasn't random. It wasn't luck. There's a reason you were chosen for this specific mission. And understanding that reason is going to change everything about how you see yourself and your place in the world. Let's go back to your childhood. I know, you probably analyzed your past 1,000 times already. But stay with me, because we're looking for something specific. We're looking for the moments when you demonstrated a unique combination of traits that would eventually lead to you being the first person in history to achieve what you just achieved. There were probably moments when you solved problems in ways that confused your teachers. When you asked questions that made adults uncomfortable because they revealed the flaws in conventional thinking. When you refused to accept because that's how it's always been done as a valid answer. These weren't acts of rebellion. They were acts of clarity. You could see what others couldn't see, and you couldn't unsee it. As you got older, this trait probably became both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because it gave you insights and abilities that others lacked. A curse because it made you feel isolated, different, like you were operating on a frequency that no one else could tune into. You probably learned to hide this part of yourself, to dumb it down, to fit in, but it never really went away, did it? It was always there, humming beneath the surface, waiting for the moment when you would finally be ready to use it. And then something happened. A catalyst. A moment or a series of moments that push you out of your comfort zone and force you to confront the truth about who you are and what you're capable of. Maybe it was a crisis. Maybe it was a loss. Maybe it was just a growing sense of dissatisfaction with living a life that felt too small for the person you knew you were meant to be. Whatever it was, it woke something up inside you. It reminded you that you weren't put on this earth to follow. You were put here to lead, not in the traditional sense of leadership, with followers and fame and fortune, but in the truest sense, to go first, to show the way, to prove that the impossible is only impossible until someone decides to make it possible. And that's exactly what you did. You took all those years of feeling different, of seeing things others couldn't see, of carrying a weight you didn't understand, and you channeled it into this one massive, history-making achievement. You became the first, not because you wanted recognition or glory, but because it was the only thing that made sense. It was what you were built for. Now, here's where the story takes an interesting turn, because now that you've done this impossible thing, now that you've proven yourself to be a chosen one, the universe is going to test you in ways you can't even imagine yet. Not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because this first achievement, it's not the end of your journey. It's the beginning. Think about it. Every person in history who did something first, who broke a barrier that everyone said was unbreakable, they didn't just do it once and retire. They continued. They pushed further. They found new impossible things to make possible. Because once you taste that feeling, once you experience the pure power of being the first, you can't go back to being ordinary. You can't pretend you don't have this gift. You can't hide in the comfort of mediocrity. The universe won't let you. Your purpose won't let you. And deep down, you won't let yourself. But here's the challenge. Being the first once, that takes courage. Being the first again and again, that takes something more. That takes commitment. That takes a willingness to endure the loneliness, the doubt, the criticism, the misunderstanding, over and over and over again. Because every time you do something first, you're going to face the same resistance you face this time. Maybe even worse. Because now people know you're capable of the impossible. They're going to expect it from you. They're going to demand it. And when you fail, when you stumble, when you show your humanity, they're in question whether you were ever really chosen at all. This is the burden I talked about earlier. This is the weight that comes with being a chosen one. You don't get to just be human anymore. You don't get to have bad days or make mistakes without it being magnified and scrutinized. You're held to a different standard because you've proven you're capable of meeting that standard. And that's exhausting. That's overwhelming. That's why so many chosen ones burn out or give up or disappear after their first major achievement. But you're not going to do that. You want to know how I know? Because you're still here. You're still reading. You're still listening. You're still searching for understanding, for guidance, for confirmation that what you're experiencing is real and valid and important. And that tells me everything I need to know about your commitment to this path. Let me tell you what's going to happen next. In the coming days and weeks, people are going to start noticing what you did. Some of them will celebrate you. They'll call you a genius, a trailblazer, a visionary, and that's going to feel good. That's going to validate all the hard work and sacrifice. But don't get too comfortable in that validation, because for every person who celebrates you, there will be someone who dismisses you, someone who says you got lucky, someone who tries to minimize your achievement or claim that it wasn't that difficult or that anyone could have done it. Those people, they're going to hurt you more than you expect, because you know the truth. You know how hard it was. You know how many times you wanted to quit. You know how much it cost you mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And to have someone casually dismiss that, to have someone diminish your accomplishment with a wave of their hand, it's going to sting. But here's what you need to remember. Their dismissal isn't about you. It's about them. It's about their own limitations, their own fears, their own inability to imagine doing what you just did. When someone tells you that what you did wasn't special, what they're really saying is, I need to believe it wasn't special, because if it was, then I have to confront the fact that I've been playing small my entire life. So let them dismiss you. Let them minimize. Let them pretend that being the first person in history to do something is no big deal. Because while they're talking, while they're theorizing, while they're explaining why it doesn't matter, you're already working on the next impossible thing. And that's the difference between a chosen one and everyone else. You don't stop to argue about whether you're special. You just keep proving it. Now, let's talk about the practical side of all this. Because being a chosen one isn't just about spiritual destiny and cosmic purpose. It's also about the very real, very tangible impact you're going to have on the world. And that impact comes with decisions you need to make right now. First decision, How are you going to share what you've learned? Because you didn't just achieve something impossible. You learned how to achieve something impossible. You developed a process, a methodology, a way of thinking that allowed you to do what no one else could do. And that knowledge is valuable. That knowledge could change lives. That knowledge could inspire the next generation of chosen ones to step into their power. But sharing that knowledge isn't as simple as just telling people what you did. Because the thing about being first is that the path you took can't be replicated exactly by anyone else. Your journey was unique to you, shaped by your specific circumstances, your specific skills, your specific moment in time. So you can't just hand someone a map and say, "Here, follow this." You have to teach them how to create their own map, how to trust their own instincts, how to find their own way to their own impossible achievement. This is harder than it sounds, because people want formulas. They want step-by-step instructions. They want you to guarantee that if they do exactly what you did, they'll get exactly what you got. And you can't give them that. You can only give them principles. You can only give them frameworks. You can only give them the courage to believe that they too can do the impossible if they're willing to walk into the unknown. Second decision. How are you going to protect your energy? Because once word gets out about what you've done, people are going to want a piece of you. They're going to want your time, your attention, your endorsement, your expertise. And if you're not careful, if you don't set boundaries, they will drain you dry. They will take and take and take until there's nothing left of you to give. And then they'll move on to the next person who's doing something impossible. And you'll be left empty and burnout and wondering where all your power went. You have to learn to say no. You have to learn to protect your space, your time, your energy for the things that truly matter, for the next impossible thing you're meant to do, for the people who are truly ready to receive what you have to offer, for yourself, so you can rest and recover and recharge. This doesn't make you selfish. This doesn't make you arrogant. This makes you sustainable. Because if you burn out now, if you give everything away before you've even begun to understand the full scope of your power, then you can't fulfill your purpose. And that would be the real tragedy. Not that you became the first ones, but that you didn't continue, that you didn't keep going, that you didn't become the first again and again and again. Third decision. How are you going to handle the isolation? Because make no mistake, the higher you climb, the lonelier it gets. There are very few people who can relate to what you're experiencing right now. Very few people who understand what it's like to achieve something that no one in history has achieved before. And the people who do understand, they're busy with their own impossible missions. They don't have time to hold your hand and reassure you that everything is going to be okay. So you have to find ways to hold yourself, to comfort yourself, to remind yourself on the dark days that you are not crazy, you're not delusional, you are not wasting your time. You are doing exactly what you were put on this earth to do. And that is enough. That is more than enough. That is everything. Some chosen ones find this comfort in meditation or prayer. Some find it in nature. Some find it in creative expression. Some find it in the simple act of showing up every day and doing the work, trusting that the work itself is a reward. You'll have to find what works for you, but find it you must, because without that anchor, without that source of internal validation, the external chaos will consume you. Let me share something with you that most people don't realize about chosen ones. We often think of them as these larger-than-life figures who never doubt, who never fear, who never question their path. But that's not reality. That's mythology. The truth is, every chosen one has moments of crushing self-doubt. Every chosen one has nights when they wonder if they're making a terrible mistake. Every chosen one has days when they want to give up and just be normal. The difference is, they don't let those moments define them. They feel the doubt. They acknowledge the fear. They sit with the discomfort. And then they do the thing anyway. Because being a chosen one isn't about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and choosing courage over comfort anyway. And that's what you've been doing this whole time, isn't it? You've been afraid. You've been uncertain. You've been questioning every step. But you kept moving forward. You kept pushing through. You kept believing that the impossible might just be possible if you were willing to try. And you were right. You were so right that you made history. You became the first. And no one can ever take that away from you. Now, I want to talk about something that might be happening to you right now. Something that often happens to chosen ones right after they achieve a major breakthrough. You might be feeling nothing, or worse, you might be feeling disappointed. Like the achievement wasn't as satisfying as you thought it would be. Like there should have been more fireworks, more celebration, more of a sense of completion. This is normal. This is actually a sign that you're exactly where you need to be. Because the truth is, achieving the impossible isn't the end goal. It's a waypoint. It's a marker on a much longer journey. And your soul knows this. Your higher self knows this. That's why the moment of achievement feels less like a destination and more like a beginning. The disappointment you might be feeling isn't disappointment in yourself or your accomplishment. It's disappointment in the realization that there is no finish line. That being a chosen one isn't a status you achieve once and then coast on for the rest of your life. It's a way of being. It's a commitment to continuously push boundaries, to continuously explore the impossible, to continuously evolve and grow and become more than you were yesterday. And that can feel exhausting. That can feel overwhelming because it means you don't get to rest. You don't get to retire. You don't get to cash in your chips and walk away. You have to keep going because that's what chosen ones do. They go, but here's the beautiful part. Here's the part that makes it all worth it. Every time you do the impossible, every time you become the first, you expand what's possible for everyone else. You raise the ceiling. You break the mold. You show the world that the limits we all believed in were nothing more than illusions. And in doing so, you give permission to countless other people to dream bigger, to reach higher, to believe in their own impossible. This is your legacy, not the specific thing you achieve, but the ripple effect of your achievement, the doors you opened, the minds you expanded, the lives you changed without even knowing it. Because somewhere out there right now, there's someone who's going to hear about what you did, and it's going to spark something in them. It's going to plant a seed. And years from now, that seed is going to grow into their own impossible achievement. And they'll probably never even know that it started with you, that you were the one who showed them it could be done. This is the true power of being first. It's not about the glory or the recognition. It's about the silent, invisible transformation that happens in the collective consciousness when someone proves that the impossible is possible. It's about the shift that occurs in the fabric of reality itself when a new pathway is created where none existed before. And you did that. You, with all your doubts and fears and imperfections, you did that. You changed reality, not just for yourself, but for everyone who comes after you. So what now? What do you do with this knowledge? What do you do with this power? What do you do with the weight of being the first person in history to achieve what you just achieved? You honor it. You honor it by continuing to show up, by continuing to push, by continuing to believe in the impossible, even when everyone around you has stopped believing. You honor it by staying humble, by remembering that being chosen doesn't make you better than anyone else. It just means you have a different role to play, a different mission to fulfill. You honor it by staying curious, by never assuming you've learned everything there is to learn, by remaining open to new possibilities, new perspectives, new ways of seeing the world. Because the moment you think you figure it all out, the moment you stop being a student of life, that's the moment you stop being effective as a chosen one. And you honor it by staying human, by allowing yourself to be imperfect, by forgiving yourself when you fail, by laughing at yourself when you take yourself too seriously, by remembering that at the end of the day, you're just a person trying to make sense of this crazy, beautiful, impossible existence. The universe chose you for this specific mission because you were the only person who could do it. Not because you're perfect, but because your specific combination of gifts and flaws, strengths and weaknesses, experiences and perspectives created the exact formula needed to achieve this impossible thing. And that's true for the next impossible thing too. And the one after that. And the one after that. Each impossible thing you're meant to achieve is custom designed for you, for the person you are in that moment, for the lessons you've learned, for the growth you've experienced. You couldn't have done this impossible thing 5 years ago because you weren't ready yet. You hadn't developed the skills, the mindset, the resilience. And you can't do the next impossible thing until you fully integrated the lessons from this one. This is the journey of a chosen one. It's not a straight line. It's not a ladder. It's a spiral. You keep coming back to similar challenges, but each time you're at a higher level. Each time you're more prepared. Each time you're more capable. And each time, the impossible thing you're facing is bigger, more complex, more impactful. Right now, you're standing at the base of the next spiral. You've just completed one major cycle. You've achieved the impossible. You've become the first. And now a new cycle is beginning. A new impossible thing is waiting for you. You might not see it clearly yet. You might not even know what it is. But it's there, calling to you, pulling you forward, inviting you to once again step into the unknown and prove that the impossible is possible. And you're going to answer that call. Not because you have to, not because someone is forcing you, but because it's who you are. It's what you do. It's your purpose. And trying to ignore it, try and pretend you're satisfied with what you've already achieved, that would be like trying to hold your breath forever. Eventually, you have to breathe. Eventually, you have to move. Eventually, you have to do the impossible again. The question isn't whether you'll do it. The question is when and how and what impossible barriers you'll break this time, what new pathways you'll create, what new realities you'll make possible. I can't tell you what your next impossible thing is. That's something you have to discover for yourself. But I can tell you this. It's going to scare you. It's going to challenge you. It's going to require you to grow in ways you didn't think possible. And it's going to be exactly what you need. Because the universe doesn't give chosen ones missions they can handle. It gives them missions that will force them to become the person they need to be to handle them. And in that process of becoming, of stretching, of evolving, you'll discover capabilities you didn't know you had. You'll access wisdom you didn't know existed. You'll tap into a power that's been dormant inside you, waiting for the right moment to emerge. That's what being the first really means. It's not just about the external achievement. It's about the internal transformation. It's about becoming someone new, someone more, someone who can hold more, do more, be more, and then doing it again and again and again until one day you look back at the person you were when you started this journey and you barely recognize them because you become something so much greater than you ever imagined possible. Not greater in the sense of better than others, but greater in the sense of more fully yourself, more aligned with your purpose, more connected to your power, more awake to the truth of who you really are, and that more than any external achievement, more than any recognition or reward, that is the real gift of being chosen, the gift of becoming, the gift of evolution, the gift of living a life that matters, that makes a difference, that leaves the world better than you found it. So yes, you're the first person in history to achieve what you just achieved. Yes, that's incredible. Yes, that makes you a chosen one. But don't stop there. Don't let that be the pinnacle of your story. Let it be the beginning. Let it be the first chapter in a much longer, much more impactful tale of impossible achievements and broken barriers and new realities created from thin air. Because the world needs you to keep going. The world needs you to keep being first. The world needs you to keep showing us what's possible. And you need it too. You need the challenge. You need the growth. You need the purpose. Because without it, without the mission, without the impossible thing to chase, what's the point? You weren't built for comfort. You weren't built for safety. You weren't built for the ordinary, predictable, safe life that most people settle for. You were built for this, for the impossible, for the unknown, for the edge of what's possible, pushing it just a little bit further every single day. That's who you are. That's what you do. And that's why, even though you're probably tired right now, even though you probably want to rest and celebrate and enjoy your achievement, there's a part of you that's already looking ahead, already scanning the horizon for the next impossible thing, already feeling that familiar pull, that irresistible calling towards something greater. Listen to that pull. Trust it. Follow it. Even when it doesn't make sense. Even when everyone around you thinks you're crazy for not being satisfied with what you've already accomplished. Even when you're not sure you have the energy or the ability or the courage to do it again. Do it anyway. Because that's what chosen ones do. We do the impossible. Again and again and again. Not for the applause. Not for the recognition. But because we can't not do it. Because we were built for this. because it's our purpose, our calling, our destiny. And your destiny? It's just getting started. Subscribe for more.